contact lens case. If you see me pop my contact lens out, it's because suddenly I can't see. And that will mean I can see the page, but I can't see you anymore. That's what I'm doing up here if I start to fidget. All right. I too am honored to be here. It's a little daunting after hearing all these marvelous writers up here reading their work. But you're such a marvelous audience of, I'm sure, many of you writers too, if not all, and listeners, your intent listeners, which is really a dream for a writer. This novel, Paul Marino, which comes out officially next week, was inspired by the life of Violet Paget, born in 1856 in France to a British mother and the French tutor of her elder brother. Mm-hmm. So her life began in a quite bizarre fashion and continued on. She became one of the best-known women writers and thinkers of her age. There's a resurgence of interest in her now among scholars, but most people have never heard of her. She renamed herself in her 20s Vernon Lee because she said nobody pays any attention to women writers. She was an autodidact, self-taught, brilliant, I would say even to the point of genius. She was a polymath. She spoke 4 languages fluently. She published over 40 books, innumerable articles, saved the Ponte Vecchio from being blown up. I could go on and on. Her life was enormous. She was also a feminist, a pacifist during World War I, and lesbian, and she was not only revered, but reviled in her lifetime. Fantastic personality whom I came across seemingly accidentally. Maybe nothing is accidental, but I was introduced to someone who now lives in her villa in the hills above Florence, Italy. And we became friends, and I ended up staying in that villa and learning about the life of Vernon Lee, who spent most of her life in that villa. And my daughter, who's here tonight, Caitlin, she also stayed with me in that villa. And Vernon Lee's spirit caught me in some way. I began researching her life, and she's best known today for her supernatural tales, if she's known at all, although, as I said, there's a renaissance of interest in her. Her supernatural tales. And she said, I don't like to write about ghosts, but I like to write about the genius loci, spirit of place. That places have spirit, that places, you can be haunted by a place. Well, Villa di Palmerino, I can testify to you, as I stayed there numerous times, quite alone, is haunted. And I believe it's haunted by the spirit of Vernon Lee. I think she's still quite there. So I'm going to read a small section from the novel. It's at the point, it's in 1886, so Vernon Lee at this point is 30 years old, still a virgin. She's just ended her first great love affair with the poet Mary Robinson. She's recovering from that, but barely. And she's living in the villa with her mother Matilda, who's quite a strange woman. She's never gotten over the 18th century. She lives as if she's in the 18th century still. And she speaks in the Quaker mannerism of thee and thou. And then her brother, the poet Eugene Lee Hamilton, these are all real historical personages, who is bafflingly paralyzed. There's no physical reason for it. In fact, the minute his mother dies, he stands up and walks up a mountain. So it has clearly something to do with his relationship with his mother. But he's quite a dour, Eeyore sort of person. And then her father, who's out constantly hunting. He's never in the house. He's out shooting things. So Kit is on her way to arrive as I open this little scene. Vernon is in the bedroom she's prepared for Kit to stay in. They've fallen in love with each other. Kit's coming for the very first time from Charlton House in Scotland. She's a very aristocratic Scottish equestrian. I quite fell in love with her when I read her letters. She's absolutely charming. And she's coming to visit Vernon for the first time and has no idea she will be living there for the next 10 years. And we'll see Matilda and Vernon's father into their graves, and we'll see Eugene rise up and walk and get married and then die, and she'll see everything. And anyway, so Vernon's a little nervous about Kit's showing up, and then the second scene will be the dinner, the first dinner with everyone together up in the salon. So here we go. Sounds of a piano drift out from the window of the salon upstairs.
Matilda playing Liszt again. Eugene will be lying near his mother, amassing poetic images that Vernon will no doubt be expected to write down for him. The thought irritates her. Lying down, she turns her gaze to the jar of scentless anemones and wills that a ghost trace of her body, her essence, remain on the bed. She draws Kit's latest letter out of her pocket, unfolds and rereads it. Beloved little Vernon, I shall be so glad to see your face again, Shelley. It feels like a year since I saw you. What a chivalrous sort of mortal you are. What a tremendous difference you have made to Miss Robinson by being good to her and by acquiescing. How do you spell that word? Just all the difference in her life, I should imagine. What a kind chap you are, Vernon. You who are so much to me, more than all the pens and inks of this world could ever tell you. I met H. James Henry the other night, had a long talk by the fire. Well, it's nearly dinner time, 8:00 as usual, so goodbye for the present. If you are still with Miss Robinson, say all the nicest of pretty things to her from me. Tout à fait, I blow you a kiss. Though I must tell you I'm still loath to give up hunting as you wish me to. If I give up hunting in this country, I shall lose caste. It's only the fact of my being a good horseman that prevents everyone from disdaining me utterly. What a crooked, illegible scrawl I'm writing you, to be sure. But having begun the day early this morning on a violent sort of horse of my father's, I'm finishing the day very tamely, propped up on the sofa with a lot of cushions. It rained hard, I got very tired riding, so I was glad to come home, though I liked some of it. Don't shrug your shoulders and call me a fool. It's an homage to my surroundings, you know, décidément. Besides, I like hunting, and everything looks so beautiful. You will be good to me, won't you, ma très chérie? In which case, nothing else matters much. And now, Vernon, though you are you, and I am I, as our friend Browning would say, I blow you a kiss good night, dearest. Kit. P.S. Oh, this is what children call a kiss, and it's for you. Vernon crosses the room to stand before the long glass, its surface reflecting the vase of scarlet anemones, a bit of shutter, and the blue April sky. She regards herself solemnly. The mirror is not Vernon's friend. It is scarcely an acquaintance. Still, she tries to assess her form objectively, as if studying a work of art or an artifact, trying to come to impartial aesthetic judgment. What would a person, any person, upon first seeing her, think, feel? The answer is unchanged in both cases. Pity. Pity for ugliness with no solution. Not true, for there is a solution, and Vernon found it long ago. She learned to reject her image, carry on as if flesh were not a visible fact. If her face has no reality to her, she reasoned, well, it cannot have any reality for others. Instead, Vernon's incumbent mind, her gleaming expanse of brain, her voice expressive of that brain, will prove the instruments of forgetting, and the instruments, too, of seduction. Rise above the body, rise far, far above, and others may follow, some even to worship. But it is Clementina Anstruther Thompson before whom she must one day stand physically naked. Kit, who must lend her the courage to be kissed, opened, loved. Now the dinner. Lamb's tongues, gray and curling, floating in dark chocolate sauce. Bird's claws, pink and tender, cooked into the runny center of an omelet. Pigeon's feet, to be exact. Does La Familia Paget dine like this every evening? Kit's mouth works calmly, without pause, as though she's supped upon tongue and claw every moment of her life. My sister is insane, Eugene replies. He's been tilted up, his dinner spooned into his mouth by the latest valet. Mad as the moon. I say she carries her obsession for history, for anything, especially antique or bizarre, to an extreme when she imposes it upon our dinner and upon our guests. I apologize for Violet's peculiarities. the blood orange ice, darling heart. Thee approve of the Easter cake as well, Matilda says, fork aloft, long white ringlets bobbling, old-fashioned and queer-looking, against her rouged cheeks. Which cake shall be tonight's dessert, presumably. But yesterday's dove-shaped Easter cake, half-eaten, its wings feathered and with sliced sugared almonds, sits ignored in the kitchen as the cook puts finishing touches on another impossible antique recipe Vernon has requested she make, a Sicilian rum jelly. Sweets are sweets, no matter the century. Eugene belches lightly and stops chewing long enough to permit the valet to daub at the corners of his mouth with a large soiled napkin. We all crave them. As Matilda and Kit finish driving dessert spoons through their wobbly anemic jellies, at last setting them down with plain relief, Vernon scrapes away at the last rummy bits in her bowl, while servants clear the table bearing downstairs the exact dishes they have recently borne up, lighter now. In the salon it turns gloomily formal, silent, only the clink of bone china and silverware being collected, while on the other side of the double doors, servants descend the staircase, chattering, one bursting off key into Puccini's aria, O mio bambino caro. The sound trails, then vanishes into the kitchen. Matilda breaks the digestive lull by explaining to Vernon's guest Clementina the Paget household routine, if indeed there could be said to be one. We entertain visitors, should visitors arrive, from 4 until 7. Often we have no one at all for weeks. Then a dozen souls descend at once as if by natural migration or a gypsy caravan. 2 months ago, Oscar Wilde nearly ran over William James and his brother Henry on the stairs. Edith Wharton stopped by twice, just after Rilke's visit, hoping to talk with Vernon, and that strange, dashing Russian poet, what's his name, Eugene? The one who is so desperately in love with thee. He arrived impromptu, and then he lingered like an ague for 3 interminable days. And always, thanks to Violet, who cultivates them like plants, we have the Italians, hordes of Italians. She invites them all, artists, critics, poets, translators, and our good neighbors, the Pasolinis, and of course the Rasponis. And as thee may have already deduced from his empty seat at dinner this evening, Henry, my husband, goes largely missing. In mind as well as form, Eugene quips, prone again, eyes fixed on a spot of soot-blackened ceiling. Safely, Henry is a hunting man. He prefers the out of doors where animals, not people, live, the fish and the fowl. Or else he sits at the train station reading foreign newspapers and watching people, strangest animals of all, come and go. No doubt he saw thee, Clementina, arrive by train this afternoon, and when thee depart, he will see that too. When weather permits, we take Eugene for open-air drives in the country. I've had a special bed kitted out in the wagon with a canvas canopy we unfurl over him in case of rain. My mother and Violet. Like my mother, I refuse to call my sister anything but Violet. Insist on my being put out like some sad potted fern into fresh air. I accede to their whim, even though I've scarcely more than a worm's eye view of anything. If it rains, I am granted the false heaven of a canvas roof. Matilda ignores her son, and she will later confess to Kit, who is an easy person to confess things to, that he bores her to catatonia. I do hope thee likes music, Clementina. I play continuously, often at odd hours of the night, whenever I cannot sleep. Mother's quite good, actually, very good. Though her Chopin is rubbish and she overplays poor Liszt, who, could he hear her, would spout blood from his grave. She's best with Haydn. Thank thee, Eugene, for both the compliment and colorful criticism. Our Violet, as thee must already know, writes incessantly whenever she's not buried up to her failing eyes in books. Books! Libri. My fault, this obsession. On occasion, an urge to garden, to poke about in the same dirt Michelangelo may have walked upon, takes her out of doors. The uova fragile, the strawberry grape, one of her more successful grafts. Violet does like to graft things. Dabble in horticulture. Oh, life with my children is an intense exercise. Violet, for instance, insists on quiet, so it becomes too much a medieval cloister or tomb for my taste. But then we have our salons for relief. Less relieving are her cults, All those mannish young women who trot up from the train, alone or in bovine clumps, to grovel at her feet, all the while managing to eat and drink like feral cats. Her appeal to them is enormous. Eugene and I don't understand it. Oh, I do, Kit says, still eating, having kept hold of her dinner plate and sawing off yet another cold dib of lamb stewed in cacao. Violet, is roaringly brilliant. Men tend to hate how brilliant she is. She outshines them. Quite tasty. I rather like the dainty tongue thing, darling Bee. One's eating practices, like most things, are overly subjugated to habit. Here's a sunny wake-up, a bit of vinegar on the nose, our little Indian's tongue bleating away in Brazilian cocoa. Throughout dinner, Vernon has been uncharacteristically silent. To have Kit here is beyond dreaming. With her health in ruin, she has spent whole days either inert or in some opposite frenzied state. But Kit has finally arrived to nurse her, cure her of the Mary Robinson malady. As Matilda's chirping commentary and Eugene's dry accompaniments continue, Vernon, with quick glances, admires her friend. Thou, Clementine, have the fresh perspective on Vernon's endless vagaries, says Matilda. The thing thee may most enjoy, if thee are here that long, if thee can indeed bear us beyond a fortnight, are the out-of-doors theatricals Vernon puts on from time to time for the children of the contadini, the local peasants. Last year's was quite a production. I believe she did a Gozzi play, an adaptation. Carlo Gozzi, the Venetian playwright. A ragged, stertorous blast of snoring, feigned or genuine, erupts from Eugene's prone form. Giving her son a glance at once withering and affectionate, Matilda tosses down her napkin and rises unperturbed. Well, then, while Eugene takes his postprandial nap, I shall be off to join Henry, who awaits me with a lantern in the garden. My errant husband and I take a stroll every evening before bed. Good digestion, followed by perambulation, Henry's sole cure for every ill. For the first time since she had arrived hours before, Kit, aside from Eugene, recumbent and genuinely snoring, is alone with Vernon. Thrusting her long, slim legs straight out in front of her, raising her arms overhead, and stretching with luxuriant abandon, she springs up, strides to the fire, pokes at it till the flames leap high and cast sparks, then lopes across the room to kneel before Vernon. Draping her arms around her friend's neck, Kit leans in to kiss one cheek, then the other, followed more lingeringly by a kiss on her friend's lips. Divine feast, darling, splendid, so antique. Pigeon's feet, sheep's tongues, chocolate. Now, shall thee escort me up to my room, help me to settle in? What say thee, my delectable?